Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. If at some point throughout the meeting you find that you do, please declare it at that time. We have one presentation today, and Mr. Jennings, would you like to introduce our guest?
I will, Your Worship. This is Mike McInerney. Mike's with Bang the Table, which is a company that we started chatting with back in 2018 about community engagement opportunities that we think would be helpful for the town and for our various departments, and in terms of getting out council's objectives to the community and its priorities. And so Mike here is just trying to get us
just a few sites that I'd like to just give you guys a bit more of a visual of what we really do. Yeah, everything.
So I'll let Mike kind of lead the presentation for you.
So what I gave you there is actually just a kind of a one-page excerpt on what we do as a company. On the bottom of the page is actually a tool spectrum that we use to engage. So basically what Bang the Table is it's an online engagement platform that its goal is to engage the community in a more transparent, engaging way. So basically it was done by, there was two guys working in Australia for the premiere, and they were doing town consultations and realized the same usual suspects were coming out for these town meetings, and they weren't getting a lot of progress. So they basically came up with Bang the Table, and like I said, it's an online engagement platform that we use to engage the public on different projects that are going on in the community. So the spectrum I have there, a lot of you I'm sure are familiar with surveys and polls. To us, I always say it's kind of more of a cookie cutter approach to engagement. You're kind of formulating what you want before you really engage. We do have surveys and polls as tools that you can use, but we have 6 other tools that are kind of a more open platform to engage, to formulate a survey or a poll, and you'll get better results that way as well. We say surveys and polls are something you do to somebody, whereas the rest of these tools are things you do with somebody. So if I just the spectrum there is kind of it moves from an open to a more engaged style. So we have surveys and polls, a question and answer tool, so that the person who's running the site, the community can ask direct questions to that person on things like a budget project or transportation, things like that. There's a guest book that kind of allows people to personalize their experience a little more. Stories tool, which kind of builds a little more trust in the community and empathy in the community. I can give you some examples of how that has been done in other communities. There's a mapping tool, which is one of the cooler things you can do for things like a downtown plan or a community center, things like that. People can put pins on the map of your community and share an idea or a picture of things that of visions that they think might be great for the community. There's an ideas tool, which is fantastic for generating. At the start of a project, you may launch an ideas tool to say, what is the community's idea on this? What are some things that we're missing that you guys may have thought of? It kind of just adds a little more engagement to the community, makes them feel that they're being listened to, and adds a little more fun to it. And there's also a forums tool, which is great. It's a threaded forum, unlike social media where you could be talking about a dog park and something that's going on in the community, and someone wants to talk about the nightlife. That conversation's kind of lost in the jumble, and it's kind of gone. Social media is a great way to get the word out. We always say they kind of work together. A lot of our townships and municipalities use social media to promote this platform and say this is where we're listening in a respectful, engaging way. Everything on this is monitored and moderated 24 hours a day. Every comment is basically moderated within 2 hours. We have a moderation policy that's very standard. We choose to do it that way because it makes it seem like the town isn't guiding the conversation. It's moderated by somebody else. But very, very few comments we find are moderated off of the site. Once people kind of know they're in an environment that is a respectful area and a respectful platform, we find people tend to understand that, and you get a lot more engaged responses. So this is our home website. You can kind of use this as a basically best practices. It teaches you about each one of our tools and how to use it in the best ways possible. So one of the projects one of our customers I wanted to show you is Kamloops. They're one of the leaders, I would say, in the industry and in public engagement. Now this is their project site. They have, from their website, they have basically a click where you normally search their website. They have a little button that says Let's Talk Kamloops. You click on that and it takes you right to this. So it's a very high, rich media content type site, lots of pictures, very little words. And it's basically where they launch all their projects that they're talking about. So they have their budget consultation, transit future, their downtown plan, which was one of the best projects I've seen done. They use the mapping and the ideas tool. I'll kind of jump into those in a little bit here, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what your page would look like. Now, do we have the volume going? I just wanted to find it. So basically what they did to start engagement, they launched a Why Engage project, so it allowed people to kind of understand the purpose of what they were doing with this website. And they launched a really great video that really brought a lot of people into
Kamloops.
their engagement.
Let's talk. Have you ever looked at the city and thought to yourself, I can make you better. I've got ideas. Well, the city is committed to working more closely with the community, that'd be you, to improve engagement and better inform council's decision making. That's a boring way of saying that we want to empower you to take action by shaping your community and your future through your input on really important matters. This is your chance to actually impact the activities, strategies, and programs that are important to you. That's why we created Let's Talk Kamloops, our new online engagement site that allows you to connect to the city at any time on matters where community input would help shape our city. Sign up and speak up on things from parking to pools, transit to trails. Let's Talk is your way to make a difference by being a part of the conversation. Here you can find and share information, participate in discussions, or show us through images, stories, and maps how you feel we can improve. Let's Talk is the hub where we'll collect ideas to enrich Kamloops the way you want. We genuinely want to work with you and discuss how we can keep making Kamloops shine. To make a difference, go to letstalk.kamloops.ca, register, and let's talk Kamloops.
So that was one of their intro they kind of outsourced that with their residents. They had some of their residents come up with ideas for an engagement type video, and that was kind of what they launched with. There we go. So as it's not moving here. Sorry. There we go. Just take you back to their Let's Talk Kamloops homepage. So basically, that video there just kind of helps bring a call to action to your town, to the citizens. Now, if we click into some pages, I can show you how they've kind of worked each project, how it works, and the different tools that they've used to launch this. So this is their budget consultation. So on the left-hand side is basically a little excerpt on what they're doing, a little summary of what they're looking for, and their goal of the project. Now everything has the ability, if you're registered with this site, you have the ability to share it on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, direct email if someone isn't connected through social media. Like I said, we want to use social media to get the word out. And here's where they've basically done a lot of launched different tools. So they have a newsfeed tool, which they can update as often as or as little as they want. So every meeting they have, it looks like they basically update a little summary of the progress of the budget and what they're doing. They've also launched a Q&A and ideas tool as well. So basically, budget's not something that everyone really understands completely. So this allowed them to launch a questions tool for people to kind of tune in, ask questions to the site administrator about the budget process, and kind of get a better understanding of what was going on. They also launched an ideas tool to engage people as well, which you can rate the comments up and down. You can comment on different ideas. Basically, it was a budget feedback, like what are your ideas for a supplemental budget or changes in service levels. Now, obviously, not all of this is something that you're not going to take all these ideas and run with it. A lot of times, it's just to give the community a sense that they've been heard, that that they actually have a platform to voice concerns or ideas that they have for the community. And on the left-hand or on the right-hand side is kind of where we have all our widgets here, and it kind of personalizes the page a bit. So they have a Who's Listening tool, so it would be your site administrator. They basically assigned this page to a different area of Kamloops, so they have their budget and reporting manager. It's not, the site isn't run by them, but this project, they get all the Q&A answers, all those things. So it kind of familiarizes things, makes it seem like, it basically shows you that you're talking to somebody, not just commenting on a white space. They've launched some videos on explaining the budget process, things of that nature, to kind of make it easier for people to understand. They have a document library, so different drafts of their budget, briefs of their last meeting, things of that nature. They have an FAQ page as well, so frequently asked questions, so that they're not fielding thousands of different questions. A lot of them are here. And they also have a life cycle of the project, which I think is really cool, especially for seasonal areas where you might have someone engage in the summer and they're a snowbird, but they still want to keep informed on where the process is in the winter or things of that nature. They have a key date tool as well, which is great for people to kind of keep informed on council meetings, when they can attend them. And if they don't want to register for the entire project page, they can find, if this is a project that they're interested in, they can just register for this project and keep informed through newsletter on this project. Another cool site here is Get Involved Burlington. Again, a lot of high-rich media content, different things to get people engaged. They engaged on retail cannabis, things of that nature. But one of the ones I like to show is their current development application, what they did with this, and it's not really as engaging, but it's pretty neat, and it's something that not many people have. So they basically used Esri mapping to show their community on different developments, and you can basically engage, click on different projects, and let's say more info. And this actually will direct you back to the city page. So this is great for a lot of planning departments where it's very difficult to navigate sometimes a municipal page. So they basically can click on any area of the town that they like. They see a development project, and it tells you the address, the applicant, basically all the information, proposed developments, different supporting documents, and their next meeting for this as well. So it kind of drives more traffic to the homepage as well. So it kind of works with your current community page, your municipal website. Yeah, so another great one is Building Barrie. They have a great website, and as you can see on this site, they've decided to put in their Twitter feed. And again, we said social media is to work with you, not against you. And it kind of helps people keep informed, and also drives traffic to their social media as well. But again, you can see all the different projects that they've launched, and they've done a great job at making it very easy to sign up, to register, to stay connected, and even just keeping in touch on their youth and official plans, things of that nature. Now, I don't know how much time we do have, but I was going to show you the town of Innisfil's done a great job for a smaller community on engaging, and you don't necessarily have to launch just project pages. What they've done is they launched an ideas tool that said, share your idea Innisfil, and it was basically to create engagement for their platform and basically ask the people what they think they can do to improve the quality of life, improve the community, different things of that nature. And they had a great response on that. They also launched a project called Snow Angels, And it was, because a lot of times, people are worried about the negative feedback they're going to get from launching things online, because it can be very difficult to manage. But they launched something that was almost like a city shout-out, where it was Snow Angels, and it was basically people in the community can engage on, people that have helped them with snow removal. So, older people in the community that can't do these things, they can say, hey, my neighbor lives here, this is what he does, he's a great person. It allowed to build a little more community within the town. So another one that I was going to say, our stories tool, I won't show you exactly what it is, but we had the City of Kingston launch a stories tool on the Johnny McDonald statue, which is a very contentious issue, and this is great for things of that nature. Basically, they launched a stories tool saying, share your stories about the Johnny McDonald statue, what it means to you, positive or negative. We want to hear what you have to say. And they had a lot of different people come out on the website. They had war veterans saying why it was a sense of pride. They had Indigenous people saying why it was offensive. And what this did was, rather than removing the statue like Victoria did without consulting the public, it really allowed to build empathy in the community and understanding. So it had people communicating with each other that they wouldn't normally talk to, and kind of understanding the other side of the situation. Kingston ended up keeping the statue because of this project that they launched. And it really helped people understand why it was there, and why some people find it offensive. And it really was one of their first projects that launched, and it really built strength on this website, and allowed people to feel like they were in an area where they can share their thoughts and discuss things in a public way, but at the same time in a private manner. One of the things, I know it's very difficult to stand up in front of people and talk, and especially for people that are new to Canada, or this is their second language. This allows people to, in the comfort of their own home, sit down, whether it's they put their kids to bed and they're watching the Leaf game or whatever it is. They can sit down, educate themselves on the projects that are going on in your community, and you get a lot more thoughtful responses. You get a lot more educated responses, and it progresses things a lot quicker. And that's one of the things we found. So you can register anonymously on the front end or publicly. Most people choose to be an anonymous username, especially for smaller communities. Like, I'm from Owen Sound, and when chicken coops was a very contentious subject there, and if your neighbor is against it and you're for it, it can be kind of awkward when you run into each other at a coffee shop or things like that. But on the back end, you're able to see all the information on this person. So you ask different register questions, whether it's a postal code, what different projects they may be interested in. You're able to see everything on the back end, so you're able to understand this user a little better. But on the front end, they feel a little bit more protected in a sense. How are we for time? I don't know how much time it is.
Defer to the.
How are we for time?
If we have time to look at Innisfil, and then we
Yeah,
can,
absolutely. Okay.
I say that because I looked at it. It looks really colorful and
Okay,
fun.
cool.
So
Let me just
might as
pull up
well
the
take a
site
look.
here. There we go. And so one of the things is that we always try to have an engaging. Oh, that's Burlington. That's not the right one. Sorry.
That's it. Your time's cut off now. Just kidding.
So one of the things is that we have a separate URL from your home website that's an engaging thing. So we have Get Involved Innisfil, we have Let's Talk Kamloops, Participate Port Colborne, or whatever it may be, and that's to kind of bring people in. But it's a separate URL because we can track all the analytics on this website. So you can click on, you can measure the click rates, you can measure who's downloading videos, viewing documents, and this is great for things that you might not get a lot of engagement on. For something like budget, that's not, so to speak, a sexy topic to talk about. You don't get a ton of engagement on it. But what you can do is, if you say you've only had 4 or 5 people engage on a project, you're able to look at who is aware and who is informed. So rather than just looking at the engaged side of things, which is a lot easier to see, you can look at who viewed the articles, who downloaded documents, who read different briefs, and you can generally make an assumption that if you didn't hear anything back, that people are okay with what's going on, and they're at least informed on the project, and it allows certain projects to move forward even without the engagement that they were thinking. And so this is Innisfil here. They've done a phenomenal job on this, and they've really been creative with different projects to get. So this is my idea is, one, they have your budget Innisfil, a seventh line study that they're doing. They want to build a bigger culture and a different type, or they want to understand the culture of Innisfil and try to build on that. And that's another project that they launched. But a really cool one as well is, Capture Innisfil. So this is a way to get people involved. And we saw the city of Penticton did something very similar. They were updating their website, and they basically launched this project. It was called Shape Your City Penticton, or Snap Your City Penticton. And they basically encourage people to take pictures of the city or different beautiful areas that they're proud of, and submit them. And they basically were able to kind of outsource pictures for their website, or things like that, to kind of stimulate a little bit more traction on the website. So as Innisfil did, they're launching Photos of the Week. You can enter to win a gift card to Henry's. But the whole premise of it was to get a better pull of just different things that are happening in the community, because as a smaller town, they can't be everywhere, and even in Toronto, places like that, you can't be everywhere. And because we have social media and smartphones, it's a great way to outsource those things, and it makes the community feel like they have more of a stake in what's going on. And so what they had people rate different pictures and vote on pictures, and it allowed them to update their website or a newsletter a little quicker than what you'd normally see.
And they would use them for marketing materials, essentially, submissions.
And so this is basically this directs you right back to the Town of Innisfil's page. So it's very, very seamless in terms of driving traffic to your website, or if people are familiar with the Innisfil web or your Wasaga website. City of Kamloops did something very similar, where you scroll to the bottom of their home website, and it has each one of their projects on Let's Talk Kamloops on their homepage. So someone scrolls down and they see budget, and they click on the budget picture, and it will direct them right to the project on Let's Talk Kamloops, their budget project. So it really helps get people moving and directing them to the right areas a little faster. So as you can see, this is Innisfil's, and they have Get Involved, and takes you with one click right to their homepage. Does anyone have any? I do want it to be very brief and not take up too much time. Does anyone any questions for me? Yeah.
Just hang on one sec.
Yeah.
I think it's an exciting project. I just wanted to clarify a couple things. So if I'm understanding, our staff would upload the information on here, but your team would monitor the comments that are made?
Yeah, so it's basically a lot of our moderators are stay-at-home moms. It's basically an app that they have, and any comment that gets thrown up, they can basically check it over, and it gets moderated by 2 or 3 different people just to make sure we're all on the same page, and then it gets uploaded onto the website. We don't do the content for communities, things of that nature, because we don't want to look like we're controlling things. We're controlling the conversation. We have what separates us from other engagement websites is it's the breadth of our tools, but it's also we have an IQ side. So we have engagement managers that have been in government positions for about 10 or 15 years, and they basically will educate you on best practices. So they'll hold your hand, so to speak, through the process. Basically, if you come with the content and pictures ready to go, they will basically help you get everything set up, give you different ideas on how to engage or what projects to launch first. You may not want to launch with something like a budget. You might want to launch with a Capture Innisfil, or back in October, a lot of people were launching with cannabis because it brings everyone out of the woodwork. Things like that, or a dog park, or a community, say you're renovating a community building, something like that will get everyone out. They basically share their best practices with you and help you launch more successfully, so to speak.
Okay, I think we have lots of upcoming projects that this would be awesome for. Have you looked at our local social media? I'm asking because we have quite an issue with it. So that's my concern with having something like this. How would that be monitored? Because the comments sometimes are quite wild. Yeah, no, and we've seen a lot of that, especially in smaller communities, because like South Bruce Peninsula, for instance, they launched their CAO basically is running their website on his own, Brad McRoberts, and he was astonished with the amount of traction that they gained from it. But for the reason why it's the moderation that really separates things is people
I'd say only about 1 or 2% of content is moderated off, because once people know they're in a space where they can't, it's not the Wild West, it's not Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, they're a little more accountable. And that's basically what holds everyone in check, is that, you know, you get moderated, you basically, our moderation team sends an email to that person, and it would be Mike or whoever's running the site, and explains to them why they were moderated off, and encourages them to re-engage. So in Niagara, they had a lot of people, they had an ad hoc group for a land-based planning project, and they were sharing their Facebook ad hoc group on this page, and that's something that most people think might be, you know, very, it's not, you're not swearing, you're not defamating anybody, but they got moderated off because we don't like you sharing public projects. We like, or different groups where it's, you know, that kind of stuff. You can share it to social media, but not the other way around. And that it generally keeps people in check. And the majority of people that get moderated off, they understand why, and they come back and re-engage in a more respectful way. The registration side of things ensures that it can't get hijacked by a particular group that's, you know, huddled around someone's kitchen and want to make 20 different accounts and try to hijack things, because you ask different things like postal code. We suggest you don't ask too many personal questions, because the drop-off rate's a lot higher in terms of register. But you can ask certain questions that make it so that someone can't hijack a project. We've seen, like, our different competitors, things like that, where, you know, they have bots, like for the Calgary Olympic bid, they had bots that came on, so people created bots, and it kind of hijacked the conversation, and they had to cancel the whole thing. That's never happened with ours due to security, different things that we have in place for that. But it's mostly on the registration end that really ensures that that can't happen.
All right, thank you. Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, Chair. My question is related to the polls and surveys. Do you have the mechanism to control the number of votes per individual?
Yeah.
Because we had some pretty strange things here with one of our local newspaper surveys where it would appear that 100,000 people.
And that's kind of what I was alluding to before, is on the registration side, that same person can't take the survey more than once. Once they've registered, it ensures it tracks those types of things, so that, like I said, you can't have a bot kind of take 1,500 different surveys and you're like, well, there's no way that's accurate, but you kind of have to go with the numbers. But our side of things ensures that that can't happen. In terms of accessibility, it can be accessed seamlessly from iPhones, tablets, really anything. It's kind of where the world's going, but it's great for rural municipalities, things like that, where people can't necessarily access, they can't come to a town hall meeting or wherever they are, but everyone's kind of got data on their phone, and it's a very seamless transition on the accessibility end as well.
Okay, Councillor Foster?
Thank you, and I think it's an exciting opportunity. I did play around with a few of those earlier today.
Awesome.
I guess I have a question that may be more to our staff than yourself, but in the report it's saying this will allow us to run 5 engagement projects if we chose to do so. So is it, if we choose to move ahead, we'll do 5, or we could do 3, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that. So that was one.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Foster, we've identified one specific project that we would like to use as the test case for the trial, but Bang the Table has offered us the opportunity to do 4 additional ones if we choose.
Yeah.
And the CAO and I haven't had any further discussions on what those might be.
Okay.
Whether we would have anything to add.
And my thought process on that is, or, you know, you've got one that could be specific to a project, and then you have another one like that, Capture Innisfil, like have something that's fun as well, as opposed to just statistical. I think you've answered all of my other questions. One, it's registration. Would it be limited to, you know, local residents and businesses, or can someone from Kamloops sign up for ours? Is there any screening from?
Again, it depends on the register questions you ask, like if you're asking postal code, because a lot of places, like for instance this community, you might have a lot of people that live in Toronto or live in England, wherever, and they have a cottage here, right? It allows for people to access, and that's one of the beautiful things about it, is that you can access it anywhere you are, but it just depends on the register questions. We find a lot of people don't engage if they don't have a stake in the community generally. Like township or municipality of Durham launched, and they were worried that, or they wanted people from Ajax, Oshawa, different areas, Pickering, because all those people live outside, but they commute into Oshawa to work, right? So they didn't necessarily put up a location block off in a sense, but we find that a lot of people, they don't really, I know South Bruce Peninsula is worried about the same thing, and they found it was mostly the people within their community that really come out. You may get the odd person that chooses to engage, but it generally, people that only have a vested interest in it are the ones that will come out.
Okay, and the final point, and that's good because I don't want people from Kamloops. The
Not
last
that
one.
we have anything against Kamloops.
No, Kamloops, great place. The last one, of course, is I guess, and I think you've answered it. So when by your screening and your filtering and when a survey is done, you can create questions that lead to a conclusion, right? So you can have questions that are going to lead. But I'm looking at going, if we're using everything, the ideas, etc., from the point of view of council, we can excuse me, be comfortable that there's integrity in the data that we're going to receive. And depending on numbers, there could be statistical significance, because if we're down to one input per person or per business or per IP address or whatever it is, then we're sitting there, to Joe's point, you don't get something that's skewed by a group of, okay.
Absolutely.
I think you've answered all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Blanc.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions. As we have a meeting after this talking about budget, so obviously cost, but time. Like if you're running one engagement project versus 5, then that means more time for the supplier. It probably means more time that staff dedicate to this. So, with some of the towns and cities that you're familiar with, do we have some kind of barometer as to what we might be looking at as far as the payroll that the town would invest and what our cost would be to a third-party supplier?
So we want to make it accessible to everybody, so we do population-based pricing. I think Mike and I discussed a trial, a 4-month trial to kind of see the kind of traction that you get from this. And we discussed some pricing on that. I believe it was...
That's in our staff report.
Okay.
It is there.
Yeah. So we did discuss some pricing in terms of a trial. Most of our customers are on annual licenses, so they can do unlimited projects per year, and it's an annual renewal fee. But yeah, I think that hopefully that answers your question there.
Okay, Councillor Kenny.
Further to Councillor Belanger's question on budgeting, I see in the staff report 3 months trial. If we as a council love the idea, and I think it's a great idea myself, would that be a multiple of 4 for the year, that number, or would that be subjective to your community basing?
If I understand, Your Worship, if I understand the question correctly, you're asking how many projects could we ultimately run on this site?
You're thinking to extend it, how much extra would it cost?
Yeah, so I mean, right now we've got $4,500 for 3 months.
Yep.
So would that be a multiple of 4 for a year?
So what we discussed was it would be probably, we can discuss it in further detail when we're hashing it out, but I think we discussed for a full year it would be 10,000. That would be unlimited projects, so it wouldn't limit you to 5. You could launch maybe 10, 15 projects if you wanted to. But yeah, we just that was I think what we talked about, but we can hash those out kind of when we get there. We just wanted to give you guys a little taste to see what the uptake would be in the community and if it's an investment you want to make long term, right?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And no, I like the concept of that 3-month pilot. We get to understand the process, how engaging it is, your company, and that. Thank you.
One thing I did want to add was that you kind of touched on it, but the uptake time to launch something like this is within 10 business days. So if you come with the content ready to go, we will help you launch. We had the town of Minto launch in 2 days. So it's possible to do it really fast. It can be up to 10 days is kind of the process. But it's very, very easy to do in terms of that. And I'll use South Bruce Peninsula as an example. They have a population of about 7,500 people. They gave themselves 3 weeks before the opt-in, opt-out for cannabis. They were kind of worried about what kind of traction they would get. And they had over 500 registers within 3 weeks and over 1,500 different people engaging on the website. So that kind of gives you an idea of kind of another similar community, that the kind of numbers you might look for.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. The first question was what you anticipated to setting it up. So 10 days, and I assume Michael's time. In the staff report, it actually says that the staff would control the back end of the site and act as site moderators. So you had mentioned that you had a workforce.
Yep.
Being the moderators. Are we also a moderator, or is it strictly your team that moderates?
It's our team of moderators. We do that because we don't want to make it look like you're controlling the conversation. So it builds a little more trust. But what I think kind of what that's alluding to is that so there's up to 2 site administrators. So you can have 2 people that control what gets finalized and posted. But why this is unique is that you can kind of create projects, so to speak. So if you have a transportation project or a waste management project, you could assign those projects to different people within the township, and they can collaborate, do their thing on their own time, send it all back, or put it on the website, or not the back end, and then send Mike an email saying, hey, we're done this project, review it, and just to make sure everything's cohesive and everything looks like it's seamless. You'd have final say on what gets finally launched, but it allows to work in kind of a project, so to speak. So you can have 15 different project administrators as well.
Very good. So then further to something that we've talked about at this table, it would funnel communications to our communications department, which I think is a really key control to getting the right message out there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. We have a motion. Did you have anything further to add?
I just wanted to add that our intent is after the trial to come back to committee with a staff report on how things went and to have a discussion with you about how we could proceed, how we'd like to proceed with this afterwards.
Okay. Just
Oh, go ahead.
to that, I wouldn't want to stop the trial period and then kind of quit cold turkey while we were talking about what to do next. So is there a bit of an overlap, or is there will you come before the trial finishes? And
Yeah, I
give us
think
like a 2.5 month update?
Yeah, I think that we could look at doing something like that and having a discussion. Yep.
Mike and I also discussed if at 3 months you might need an extra month or 2, we can look at pricing for something like that, or even just extend it a month or something like that to help you build a little more traction, if that's something you're looking for. And one thing that I will add is if when you do come back to look at results and stuff, everything on the back end, all the analytics can be uploaded to Excel PDF so that you can share it across the township so that people can all look at everything that's going on, and we help you understand the back end of everything, all the analysis of the data as well.
Okay, awesome.
So then just my comment there is, I think if we're introducing kind of a new innovative tool, we just need to keep it going if it's looking like it's working. There's nothing worse than flavor of the day that comes and goes. And I think it's important to be
We don't want to hit the off
consistent.
switch suddenly, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and we will definitely work with you on that, even if it's something that you think it's going to be passed, or if it's done really well and you're kind of in that process of trying to RFP kind of thing. We'll work with you guys to keep it going. The last thing we want to see is have you launch it and then it just stops, and then the community's kind of like, what is going on kind of thing. We want it to be seamless across the board for you guys.
Okay, all right. If there's nothing else, I'll read the motion. Moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Boulanger. Be it resolved, the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that it authorize staff to use the Bang the Table community engagement digital platform for a trial period And that at the end of the period, staff report to committee and seek further direction on the further use of a digital community engagement tool. Thank you. We'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kitty?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
In favor.
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Byfolchi? In favor. Vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, guys. I really, really appreciate it. There was some great questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I was trying to read that. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, we have the proposed new procedural bylaw. Dina, did you want to, gonna have a problem here today. Did you have anything that you wanted to touch on, or?
Your Worship, thank you. Just to highlight the changes we've made since the last time we had a look at the procedural bylaw. Council noted, or committee noted, that the change to the 48 hours notice, that was updated, and I've updated the date of the inaugural to coincide with the new term of council. We've updated that closed meetings are audio recorded. Clarification with regards to visual presentations to be included in the agenda, and the recorded vote section has been updated as well. And so I believe the bylaw is ready to go, and I'm looking for any additional changes that the committee may have at this point.
Okay. Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Worship. I think I caught it later on, but it wasn't itemized here about the 2-minute report at the end of council, so I didn't know if it, when I first looked at it, I didn't see it on your itemized list, but I think I saw it further in, so it is.
Okay. Councillor Foster, did I see your hand go up?
No, it was the same thing, yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Boulanger?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have a number of questions, actually. One was on the change of presentation and materials that are being accepted for information on. I still believe that you know, any presentation material should be viewed by the town before it's presented, and even if it's just for information, the time of the presentation is when we can ask questions of the presenter. So I'm still in favor that the presentation materials should be included with the agenda so that council members have an opportunity to review and formulate questions ahead of seeing the presentation. And in 5.02C, it still seems that that is the requirement, although in 5.02A it is not the requirement.
Can you touch on that, please?
So 5.02A says that the information to be included in the agenda is delivered to the clerk's office for the scheduled meeting by the date as specified. And 5.02B says, notwithstanding that, the visual presentations that are for information only or supplemental to a report on the agenda are not required to be included in the agenda, subject to the approval of the clerk and or CAO.
Right.
So that those presentations will be reviewed prior to being
Right,
allowed
but
to.
not necessarily in the hands of council.
Correct, but only if it's for information or supplemental to a report already on the agenda.
No, I understand that, but the presenter will be there, and we will have potentially very short notice other than, you know, hearing them and formulating a question, whereas I'm just thinking if it's possible that we should get material in advance of a meeting. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the agenda if it's earlier, but I mean, even if it's a day or whatever.
Yes,
That would be my recommendation.
That is my understanding as well. Of course, staff will make every effort to bring forward presentations as soon as possible. There have been instances where it is certainly not, it hasn't been possible to do that because of timelines. But we will make every effort, and certainly if council would like to update that section, then I'm open to that as well.
Is there anybody interested in looking at that further? Councillor Kinney?
I agree with Councillor Boulanger. I think if at all possible, all the information to do with any presentation would be great to have in advance because it makes us more informed and have that ability to articulate not necessarily concerns but suggestions and stuff.
Well, and I think, Dina, what you're saying is that is the intent of this, is to get it, but in the event that there is a situation and it is for information, we're not being asked to make a decision on it, that this just doesn't tie your hands to maybe pushing an item off for another month that needs to come to council.
Yeah, and what I can say to that, thank you, Your Worship, is an example of that would be during budget season where we have specifically budget meetings maybe weekly. There isn't enough time to turn around a presentation for the next meeting. The report might be there. However, potentially the presentation might not be ready because we're trying to coordinate all departments and get an agenda together. But the timeline doesn't work for meeting to next meeting and agendas.
We might have a meeting on a Tuesday and the cutoff and make changes, and staff have to have all those changes in by Wednesday at noon the next day. So that would not allow them to meet that requirement. I think that's what this is trying to cover.
Yes, it's a safeguard, but we can certainly clarify that a little more if
Or we could say
necessary.
external presenters, because like internal, we have access to all of those individuals on a regular basis, but on an external presenter. And I use the example of Gateway that came with
A verbal update.
a verbal update, and even a verbal update should be reviewed by the town, even if it's in form of a letter, prior to someone coming in and doing a presentation. And I believe council should be aware of that information.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor, you have a comment
Yeah.
on that one there?
That one particularly, I was thinking more of the external ones. Sometimes we have developers or we have their agents coming in, and the zoning change or whatever is in the presentation. We know what they're here for, but they might not want to hand out the site plan or the sketch of the houses, because at this point that's proprietary information. They might share one with us at the table, but they maybe don't want it on a public agenda the week before or 2 days before for the public to analyze their plan before they've even presented it to us. So I think maybe there's sometimes a reason we get stuff at the table, that this
So-
gives you that flexibility. As long as it's vetted by the clerk, I'm happy with that.
So I'm just going to look to the clerk. So the councillor has a few things. So can we just at this point, just by a show of hands, if there's interest to do something different, if not, it's off the table and we move on to the next issue. Is that fair to do that? Okay, so
Sorry, I just want, again, I don't have a huge issue with this, but I want to be clear. So notwithstanding the wording that's there, the clerk and CAO are going to try and make available every visual, slide deck, if you will, or PowerPoint presentation, if it's possible. So if there's something, so if you have a developer coming from out of town who chooses not to and says, I want to have the bang for the buck, I want to, have this splash, because sometimes they don't want, you read it and you may analyze it, but when they're doing the presentation, take this one here, he wanted to tell us about it, he wanted to show us those sites. We had the ability to look at them, and most of us probably did, but he wanted, they want to have some kind of splash. So the idea is, any report you can get that comes to your hands that's complete, it will be added there. Anyone that isn't complete because of timing, or the developer, or whoever, the proponent, I won't say it's the proponent, is saying, I really want to have my pictures and my, because there's nothing worse than reading a PowerPoint presentation. That's the most boring thing in the world. It's the value add that someone has that gives the context to it. So anything that can be available will be available, and if it's not for timing reasons or whatever else, it will then be included in the minutes, or a link will be in the minutes to everyone to access, right? I get your point. You want to be able to get what you can ahead of time, but some things people will, want to hold close to their chest for proprietary reasons or whatever. Anyway,
Well,
I just want to be
and I think the intent would be if it's a drawing of a house or something like that, the intent is not to withhold a presentation that would somehow blindside council. I mean, nothing here today blindsided us, but if that wasn't included in a presentation before, then they wouldn't have been able to show it. And I think that it's useful to be able to see that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, those links today were great, like to be able to get on there and play earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
So, one final on this one. Did you have another comment on that before we kind
Well,
of do show of hands?
no, my only point through the chair is that it's been very rare that we're missing the information. We've done a very good job, and the old bylaw indicated that it was to go out with the agenda, and it was rare that we didn't have that information. So we've been doing a really good job, and hopefully we continue to do a really good job.
Okay, so Councillor Belanger has put forward his thoughts on changing this. Is there support for that? Who's in? And not support?
Okay with it.
So we'll leave that one as is. Your next one?
Okay, and the next one was 6.01E, and that, it's pretty minor. It said, speak to an issue more than 5 minutes cumulative. And then in 6.06, it says 5 minutes, but it doesn't say cumulative. But we really have no method of measuring that. And all I'm saying is sometimes when we're dealing with a very significant decision that, you know, I don't know if the cumulative, maybe it's 5 minutes at a single time, but I don't think we have any way to say, you know, okay, we think that over the last 10 minutes you spoke 3 times and it was 5 minutes.
Do you want to address that?
Not whatever is council's will for this one.
What page is that on?
Page 32.
I'm sorry, which?
6.01E.
E1.
Yeah, EI.
E1.
I
And then,
think we can remove.
and then in 6.06F, it sort of says the same thing, but it doesn't use the word cumulative.
So you want to take the word cumulative away, or you want to add it?
Take it away.
Comments on that?
Well, Your Worship, and again, the idea is to keep the business of council moving. However, if I remember right, at any point, anyone from council can request that a vote be called. So if it's going, and somewhere it says you can only speak to an issue and then speak to it again after it's gone around the table, like everyone's had a chance. But I mean, there is a mechanism, I don't know the number on it, but there is a mechanism where we, you know, if we feel that this has been flogged to death, but someone's still passionate about it, you could always say, I request a vote be called. It's non-debatable, and the chair would call it. So I think that's the workaround. So I don't mind removing the word if that's what it is, and we'll still advance the business of council as we see fit.
And I think it's up to the chair to keep things going. So, Councillor?
Yes, thank you. And just to add that, I think we've all seen that during a discussion, another comment or another question is raised by someone other's input. So sometimes it does go on a little longer, but usually it's very productive discussion because somebody else has raised a point that generates another idea. So
Okay, show of hands to remove the word cumulative. Okay, so we'll remove it. You have another one?
yeah, my next one is 7.01E, which is to call for the vote. And I believe, because we had so many changes, but I believe in the old, at one point there was supposed to be that everyone around the table had at least one opportunity to speak prior to calling for the vote. That was, I think that was previously an understanding.
Okay. Do you want to speak to that while she's looking?
Well, I'll defer obviously to the clerk, but my understanding through this, and even at the county level, is once a vote is called, a request for a vote being called, that ended debate at the time, and it's not amendable and all that. I've seen it done. I've never seen it done at this table. I have seen it done at the county table before, and it's a matter of that's. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not of the understanding that everyone then gets a shot at it. It's a vote is non-debatable. A call for a vote is non-debatable, not amendable.
I think what the councillor said was everybody first has a chance to speak about it, and
Oh.
if somebody says call for the vote before that, is that what you're saying?
Sorry, so calling for the vote should never be a tool to
end debate.
eliminate discussion or debate.
Right.
It
Right,
can.
and I don't
It can.
think it has
It
been
can
used in
end
that.
discussion or debate, but.
And that's,
So
yeah,
all
sorry.
all I'm saying is it's not clear, I believe in the new bylaw, that there would be a level of discussion. It just says that if somebody calls for the vote,
There's a
it's
vote.
done. Sorry?
If you call the question, there's a vote to accept that, and if it passes,
No.
if you read
No,
this, it is.
that's not what it
C and
says.
D. When
It's-
resolved in the affirmative, you shall be forwarded by voting on the motion without debate or amendment. Or
Right.
D, when resolved in the negative, shall be followed by resumption of the debate. So if you call the question, there's a show of hands to say, call the question,
No.
yes or no.
Yeah.
I understand, but as it reads right now, we could introduce a motion and someone could call for a vote before discussion.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that's
No, I agree with you on that.
appropriate.
I agree with you on that.
No.
It's at the very end.
Page 35, 7.01E, number.
It's number 5.
5.
Number 5.
It's the motion to call the vote
Yeah.
that happens.
Oh, there we go.
I'm not
The disturbance.
locating that in the old bylaw, that
No,
was
it
a
may not
rule.
be. It was just a
Oh, that's what
unspoken.
I'm looking for.
It was, that's how it was explained to me, is that, and I believe we've had discussion around the table over the last 3 years where the general rule was there was to be an appropriate level of discussion before one calls the vote.
And I think last term there was, and I think when things went too long or carried on, I think that there was request for the vote to be called. And I think that comes with respect around the table that, you know, when something's been beaten to death, that somebody's
I agree
gonna do
with that.
Yeah.
So,
And that goes back to my previous
Yeah.
comment to, on the previous part is, if we exceed the 5 minutes, no one's really sitting with the stopwatch. But after 25 minutes, you're gonna sit there and
Yeah,
say,
no.
hey.
No. I get the intent.
Only if you got
Okay.
4 affirmative votes.
But that, sorry, that's not a change from the previous.
No,
No.
it's not. I was trying to look and see if there was a rule that changed
Yeah,
that in the old bylaw.
it was just
This
unclear.
is really a
It
Robert's
was just unclear to
rule.
me whether someone could, so one person makes a comment and then somebody calls for a
No.
vote.
No.
I don't,
No.
yeah, and I
There
think
has to be a
you
vote
might
on
be
the
able
call.
to,
Yeah.
Well, there has to be a
There has
vote
to
on
be
the
a vote on the
call.
call.
According to this, there has to be a
Yeah.
vote on the call.
Right.
If it's approved, then the vote is called. If it's
Yeah.
disapproved, then it goes back to the
correct.
Okay, 7.01I, and I didn't write out the whole thing. That was the one on splitting the vote of a motion using original mover and seconder. Is that,
Yes, that's remains. the
okay.
same.
That's it.
okay. Anyone else on this one? Okay. It's moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Boulanger. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole receive the proposed new procedural bylaw draft 2 report. The bylaw be forwarded to the March 26th council meeting for adoption, incorporating any further changes as directed at this meeting.
Thank you. We'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Brink?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor?
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
In favor?
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Buckles? In favor. The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Motion is carried.
And the next couple, we do have Mr. Ginny here if there's questions, but I will read the motion. It's moved by Councillor Boulanger, seconded by Councillor Kinney. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that garbage containers and disposal services request for proposal RFP number BF 2019-01 be awarded to Waste Connections of Canada as per the quoted price of $40 per dump for 8 cubic yard garbage container, $20 per dump for 4 cubic yard garbage container, and $20 per dump for 8 cubic yard cardboard container excluding HST, subject to the 2019 budget being ratified. Any discussion on this?
We'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Brink?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor?
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
In favor.
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Buckles? In favor. The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Motion is carried.
Next, it's moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Wells. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that the light-duty vehicle request for proposal RFP number FL 2019-01 for 1 new crew cab and 3 new regular cab pickup trucks be awarded to Hannah Motor Sales Company Limited in the amount of $177,144.45, including HST, subject to the 2019 capital budget being ratified. Discussion? Councillor Foster.
A couple little points, Your Worship, and this might have been in previous ones, but I'm just noticing there's a couple items in the evaluation criteria, and I'm not sure if they've been in there forever, but things like the location of service facilities, the fuel consumption I thought was really good, having that as a criteria, and also the past service performance. So when we're buying a product, this happens to be a pickup or light service vehicles or whatever the technical name is, but it's good to see that we're sitting there saying, you know, if someone's provided excellent service and happens to be nearby, it's an advantage in the thing. So just for comment.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wells.
And it's just a comment too. I may be forgetful in terms of what was available in the past, but I believe in the past with such reports we were always made aware of who the other proponents were and who the other bidders were.
Yeah.
And I noted that's not contained today. I'm okay to move forward based on the evaluations, but I would have liked to have seen the breakdowns going forward. I'd like to see the breakdowns according to the bidders, just so I could get a sense of the evaluation process as it relates.
Okay, Mr. Dooney, did you want to speak to why this might be a little different?
As an RFP, excuse me, thanks for the question, but through an RFP proposal, typically it has been, you don't identify the second, third, fourth proponents, but if it's something that the council would like to see, we can definitely put it there, but it's a standard in some areas that you don't put that, but it's really...
Yeah, I think that's something that has happened forever, but maybe in other places it doesn't happen the way we've been doing it, perhaps. Is that kind of the mindset there, Deputy Mayor?
This topic came up a number of times last term of council, that we would get different reports back from different RFPs. So, you know, the economic development one would have some information. The public work ones seemed to be the most complete. We would get more information about where it was advertised, who responded, what the rates were, and a number of times it said, can we not just standardize it? So our hopes were, my hope with kind of procurement department of one was that there would be some standards coming forward, just so that we see the same information every time, and we know that it's been advertised appropriately. We know that, you know, more than one. We'd like to maybe see who the evaluation committee is, just so that we have good confidence that, yep, this is
okay. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do remember that we'd see the ones that would have 2, 3, 4, etc. I look at the when someone's put in an RFP and they're successful, that's a reward. I don't think there needs to be a punishment to number 2 to be said, you know, you didn't make it. It could be construed as, you know, a negative thing. So anyway, I'm fine with it, but I do agree, consistent across the corporation would be lovely.
Yeah, and I'll look to you, George. I do remember that conversation. Is that something that maybe we could talk about in the future, as to how can that all be standardized so that we're not getting different things coming across the table?
Thank you, Worship, and yes, and that's a very good point, and that's part of what Giuliano's role is manager of purchasing. It's just taking time to get to that standard approach and get to the approach where we're using best practice. And Public Works certainly has a more robust report, and that's kind of been the best practice within our organization. It's just getting to that point.
All right. Anyone else? I've already read the question.
We'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Bray.
in favor.
Councillor Foster.
In favor.
Councillor Kinney.
In favor.
Councillor Watson.
In favor.
Councillor Wells.
In favor.
Mayor Byfolchi.
In favor.
Vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
Thank you. Next, we have the 2018 year-end report, moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Kinney. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole of Council recommend to Council that it receive the preliminary 2018 financial statements for information, and that the estimated deficits and surplus as noted in tables 1, 2, 3, and 4 included below be approved for transfers either from or to reserves as specified in the tables, and further that any remaining surplus, deficit, operating or capital funds estimated to be $74,971 be transferred to and from the tax rate stabilization reserve account. Any questions on this report?
Okay. We'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
In favor.
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Bartolci?
In favor?
Vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Motion is carried.
Thank you. Items for future meetings, there's none listed there. Next, we will be going in closed session. It's moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Belanger. Be it resolved that pursuant to Section 239(2) after the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 19, 2019 be closed to the public to discuss advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege.
Call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
In favor.
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Bartolci?
In favor?
Vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Motion is carried.
Okay. Anybody need a couple minutes, or we're good?
That should be a button.
Okay, now we're on. Moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Wells. Be it resolved, the Committee of the Whole confirm direction in closed session pertaining to matters relating to local board, Section 239 2F of the Municipal Act. Advice is subject to solicitor-client privilege.
Thank you, Worship. We'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
Favor?
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Van
In favor?
Vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Motion is
All
carried.
done.
I'm sorry.
All fun
Okay,
take out of
we're
that.
adjourned. I'll see you in about 48 minutes at our next Committee of the Whole.